Hi folks, this is Job here, and today I'll be showing you how Devil May Cry 5's mission score formula works. We'll start off taking a look at the formula itself, what each of the terms in the formula means, and other remarks. Then we'll run a simple experiment playing through mission 1 to see how the formula is used to tally the score. Once we're familiar with the calculation, we'll explore the strategy to maximize stylish points. Finally, we'll see how we can use Vergil to exploit the formula for stylish points. I'd like to point out that I got this formula from a Twitter post by Nobuyo4519 that dates back to April 21st, 2019, and saw the Vergil glitch in a video by Taldaram. I will leave the links to these sources in the description. As a quick disclaimer, the original information is in Japanese and I don't speak Japanese, so I used machine translations to try to make sense of this and also lots of imagination to fill in the gaps. Having said that, let's dive right in. First off, this calculation works the same regardless of character and difficulty level, except Heaven or Hell, which has some difference which we'll get to later. Certain terms used in the calculation are specific to each enemy, for instance enemy strength. Refer to the spreadsheet in the Twitter post for specific values. The stylish points formula is defeat points times 100 plus stylish letter damage points, then divide the whole thing by the total damage points and mission correction. Values for each term accumulate from the start of the mission to the end, as if the whole mission was one single big fight. Here's what each term is. Defeat points. Each enemy you kill adds a number of points. This value is always a multiple of the enemy's maximum strength. You can check out the enemy strength, defeat points and their ratio in the highlighted columns on the spreadsheet. These points aren't added in Heaven or Hell, by the way. Total damage points. That's the actual damage inflicted. This is limited by the enemy strength. That is, if your attack deals 100 damage but the enemy only has 10 HP left, it will count as 10. Letter damage points. This is the damage that you inflicted on a certain letter. This value is multiplied by a factor based on the letter. Letter factors range from 1000 for no stylish letter to 8000 for triple S, as you can see on the table on screen. The value is also multiplied by an enemy-specific points factor. You can check out this value in the highlighted column on the spreadsheet. For example, Behemoth has an STP factor of 1.2, so if you do 1000 damage, it will count as 1200. If you do this damage in triple S rank, you would get 9.6 million in letter points. Note that the letter is counted after the attack affects the stylish rank. For instance, if your attack brings up the letter from B to A, the letter factor used will be for A. Mission correction. Mission specific coefficient. It's more difficult to get points in missions where this value is larger. Unexpected ending bonus. If you defeat Urizen in the prologue or mission 8, you get an additional 15,000 STP after the bonus and penalty multipliers are applied. However, these points don't get added if you're using a super character or in Heaven or Hell difficulty. Damage and defeat points are added when the enemy's strength decreases as a result of attacks by the player or projectile parries, and if you detonate explosives in Mission 1 and Mission 3. Things that don't add damage or defeat points include objects that can't be destroyed with one shot in Heaven or Hell, like Clifo's root tentacles, enemy gadgets like Urizen's crystal or Angelo's shield, and objects that damage both players and enemies, such as the Hellbat self-destruct or explosives if detonated by an enemy. It's also worth noting that when fighting Vergil, his doppelganger counts as a separate enemy, so it adds damage and defeat points. But when you're playing as Vergil, your double clone doesn't add damage or defeat points. Also, Nidhogg tentacles and Urizen's crystal add damage but no defeat points. For the Hellbat, if it self-destructs, the explosion won't add damage or defeat points for other enemies, and the Hellbat's last 1 HP point and its defeat points won't be added either. Let's take a look now at the Mission 1 run in human difficulty to see how the score system works in practice. At the beginning of the mission, I stand on the explosive so that an Amposa detonates it and kills a few enemies. As I noted earlier, this doesn't add any damage or defeat points. I grab the last 2 Amposas and next on the letter to triple S. Now we can get maximum letter points for taking out the tentacles. After I reach the checkpoint, I get 27,000 stylish points. Let's break this down. I'm getting 3900 defeat points for each tentacle I killed. Again, this defeat points value is specific to the tentacles. You can check it out in the spreadsheet. Note that this value is multiplied by 100. For letter points, I'm getting the damage I did to each one of the 4 tentacles multiplied by 8000, because that's the letter factor for S, and multiplied by 3, because that's the STP factor for the tentacles, as seen on the spreadsheet. Total damage is just the tentacle's HP. If we plug that into the formula, we get those 27,000 STP.
Are they collecting human blood?
Now I move forward to the boss fight at the end of the mission.
Something else. Ugh, what a lovely house plant.
Incinerator! That's what makes me
Here I'm trying to bring up the stylish letter up to S before doing damage to the boss. This will make sure I get maximum letter points.
They're everywhere. Makes me sick.
Now that I destroyed the boss, let's see how this contributed to the final score. I got 90,000 defeat points, which get added to the points I already had for the tentacles. The boss had 6,000 HP, so that also got added to the total damage and letter points. For letter points, the Glyphos Root's STP factor is 1.1. As you can see, every enemy you attack or kill will add to each one of the terms in the formula, and the stylish points get computed at each checkpoint, and also at the end of the mission. The total stylish points are finally calculated multiplying this value by any bonus and penalty factor you received. It looks like the number you get is rounded down to the nearest integer. Let's imagine for a second that we only have to take out a single enemy to finish the mission. In this case, the score formula would give us an idea of how juicy that enemy is. Taking into account that the total damage inflicted is equal to the enemy's HP or strength, we can factor out enemy HP. So, enemy juiciness is based off of the enemy's defeat factor, STP factor and letter factor. For instance, the juiciest enemies are Glyphos tentacles and electric mushrooms, with 27k STP if you take them out on a S letter, and the least juicy enemies are nests that would give just 8.1k STP in the same situation. There are a couple of general guidelines if you want to maximize your STP in a certain fight. First, bring up the stylish letter as much as possible before dealing any damage. And if you have to attack on a letter below S, just focus your attacks on the least juicy enemies of the fight to bring up the letter. Other than that, it comes down to picking the correct fights and acing them. Now, this doesn't matter much for missions where you don't have a choice who you fight. But there are other missions where fighting some enemies is optional. So in this case, here's the strategy. Step 1 is identify the required fights for the mission. Those are the fights where you get walled into an area and have to kill all the enemies in order to proceed. For example, in mission 1, the only required fight is the boss at the end. Step 2 is to calculate STP for the required fights using the formula, as if those were the only fights in the mission. Example, for mission 1, that would be just the boss fight. But if the mission had more than one required fight, we would just add them all together and calculate stylish points. Let's call this our current STP. We also want to keep track of defeat points, letter points and total damage. For mission 1, after the Glyphos Root boss fight, assuming you did all damage in S letter, your current STP would be equal to 10,300. Step 3. Calculate stylish points, defeat points, letter points and total damage for all the optional fights, and sort from highest STP to lowest. Again, if the fight has several enemies, we just add them together in the STP calculation. For mission 1 DMD, there's 5 tentacles, 2 red bosses, 1 Baphomet, 1 Tenor, etc. We can count each enemy as an individual fight because we can choose who to fight. Again, values here assume S stylish letter. At step 4, you have to ask if the STP for the top optional fight is higher than the current STP. If so, you take the fight and recalculate your current STP. Otherwise, you skip the fight. In Mission 1, current STP is 10,300 with the required boss fight, and one tentacle fight is worth 27,000 STP. So in this case, we want to take the fight and recalculate. After the fight, current STP will be 10,654. Step 5 is to repeat step 4 until the answer is no. Doing it this way guarantees that we only take optional fights that'll bring up the final score. For example, for Mission 1 DMD, we'd still have 4 more tentacle fights that we want to take. After adding all 5 tentacles, current STP will be 11,932. At this point, we have the final list of required optional fights to take in the mission in order to maximize STP. So for Mission 1 DMD, the best strategy is to kill 5 tentacles on the boss. I will leave a link to the Mission 1 DMD run where I got this score in the description. One last remark, if the mission has multiple paths, we're gonna have to calculate STP for each different path using the strategy above, and then pick the best one. In this last part of the video, I'll explain how we can use Vergil to get an insane mission score. Earlier I mentioned that Vergil double clone attacks don't add damage or defeat points. As proof of this, I will leave a link in the description to a 0-point Vergil Mission 1 run. So what we can do to maximize STP with Vergil is this. First, we attack using the double clone, until the enemy has only 1 HP left. We can do this with a non-finisher attack for the last few health points. One such attack is Yamato Combo C. All you need to do is dismiss the clone before the final blow. Then we take out the last 1 HP with Vergil. What does this accomplish? If we go back to the score equation, notice that the denominator is the total damage. If only 1 damage point was counted, the denominator becomes 1, and the mission score is equal to defeat points plus letter points for 1 damage. This can be a ridiculous score. For example, if we use this strategy in Mission 1, we could get more than 9 million STP, even before no damage and other multipliers. Let's take a look at the proof of concept run. At the beginning of the fight, I invoke the double clone and taunt from a safe distance. While Vergil is locked in place taunting, I can control the double clone to take out most of the Glyphod Root's health. When the boss's health is low, I use Yamato Combo C and dismiss the clone before the final hit. Now the boss has only 1 HP left. Before finishing it, I bring up the letter to SSS for a maximum score. Over 9 million stylish points. The score count animation seems to glitch out. So total stylish points after the bonus and penalty multipliers is 21.3 million. Only it's not. It's actually 21.6 million.
Are you serious?
I then get D rank and negative red orbs. I had 4.8 million orbs. That minus the 1.1 million bonus equals 99.9 million orbs. Something is clearly wrong with that calculation, but it looks like this is the fastest way to max out red orbs. That's all I had for this video. Goodbye.